Salut à tous sur ma chaîne, j'espère que vous allez bien. Alors aujourd'hui on se retrouve de nouveau pour un live sur du Minecraft les potos. On va faire du terraforming et construction les potos, qu'on continue le développement. Et en fond on a la première course des 12 heures du Red Bull Ring les potos. Voilà, j'espère que ça vous plaira les potos, c'est parti. Alors c'est bien le Red Bull Ring que vous entendez en fond, les poteaux. Et voilà. Alors on va continuer tout de suite où on en était. Hein. And the goal was decided by Estonian Mirko Valustro. The two Altran Peugeot starting 32nd and 33rd, 308 Guillaume Plana, 908 Stefan Battaglia, and let's not forget about Class A3, the 150 car will start from 34th position, the only car in that class from Vista Racing Team, and starting that is Gerald Haigis. The Vortex is there, we're delighted to say, and car 204 has at the wheel Cyril Calmont. So that's your grid, 35 cars working their way now into the left-hander, the first of two left-handers, and they then head through Horst Alpina corner, the right-hander. By the way, if you've not yet spotted the digital numbers on the side of the cars, not the door numbers, but the illuminated red numbers, that tells you where the cars are in the overall standings. A great little invention. They reset every time they cross the line, effectively, and therefore the Ferrari carries number 1, the 964, the Lamborghini Huracan carries number 2, and the 29 Porsche carries number 3 for the moment. But I sense these cars will be jostling for position very shortly indeed. Great. Coming round now, second formation lap coming to an end. Leading car pits right in front of us, Johnny. As they're settling into the 2x2 formation. They certainly are. By the leading car, you mean the pace car, of course. We do still have the Ferrari out front. And for the third time this year, the 24hourseries.com, we're about to go racing. It's quite a long pause because it's a long run down to the start line here at the Red Bull Ring. And we're now underway with 3.5 hours starting to tick by. The car's already overlapping the Ford Racing Porsche, trying to get an inside line on the Ferrari 488. Matteo Malicelli, though, just about hangs on to the lead. Right around the outside, there goes Robert Renaud, and you need to be careful where he rejoins. Lamborghini Huracan right at the tailpipes of the Ferrari. The Ford Racing Porsche's got a good start as well, but I think that ploy by the 911 pilot, Robert Renaud, was ill-judged because he's lost a little bit of ground. Had to cede as he rejoined, and here comes the Ford Porsche around the outside to take the lead. Maybe temporarily. Again, he's doing a kind of Renaud lineup at Rima's corner. Ferrari in front of Lamborghini and Ford Racing Porsche in third. But up to fourth, the Renault from 8th on the grid. The Renault, a fantastic start for Jordan Rogal. Took a position as they came to the line. And another couple as the cars ran wide through turn 1. Up to fourth position overall from 8th on the grid. Fantastic start for the GPX3 Renault there. Let's see how long that FGT3 car can stay there. Ferrari, Lamborghini, Porsche. Salut Gamerboy, comment ça va poto? Manufacturers on this opening lap, and in fifth position under the Porsche we have a Mercedes, though loitering with intent in sixth position. Christian Frankenhout, remember, starting the number 1 Hoffer Racing Mercedes, and he's wasting no time at all to get stuck in with the top 6. Salut Marie, comment ça va? Starting a disappointing 10th. He has gained about 4 spots, I reckon. So out of Rick's corner for the first time, down into the compression right-hander at Red Bull Mobile, and plenty of curb being taken by the race leader, Ferrari 488 of Matteo Malicelli. Second position is Rolf Eichen in the green Lamborghini. Robert Lukash is third. Fourth place, a hard-charging, brilliantly starting Jordan Rogal from the Royal now Christian Frankenhout. Jimmy Eriksson for the HTP Motorsport crew. So Jimmy's lost places from 5th, he falls to 10th. Si Indianapolis sont derrière, c'est la Red Bull Ring, Yves-Marie, derrière. Made up 9 places on that first lap. He's now dealing with the slower traffic ahead before it can get onto toes with the rest of the A6 field. That top 4, 5, 6 car battle, very close indeed. Just a couple of seconds separating the 11 from the 6th place number 1. A very fast start there from Hofer Racing. Before we settle down into the bracket times, of course, the A6M cars,
Si tu veux le lien, Marie, tu me dis, y a pas de problème.
On that typically Renault yellow extreme car, the GP Extreme Renault RS01. So let's take a look back at the start of the race with the Ferrari coming around to complete the second lap, but things are just starting to show signs of settling down. Renault then already showing signs of movement, a touch out of line but not overlapping, and then the lights went out. What are you pointing at, Ray? The Renault just started.
Terraforme les poteaux. From Belgium, which had a good starting position in SP2, second place alongside the True Racing KTM. Don't need to go code 60 though, because the driver of the speed level Porsche has managed to get the thing pointed in the right direction. It's Carlos Rivas. 50, not quite 3-point turn, but a deep end, and the car back in the race, having lost quite a lot of ground. Further back down the order, the SP3 GT4 battle. We expected this to be close. Jeux has dropped back a couple of places. That class now led by the RTR Projects KTM, the 221 car, the 27th position overall, and up into second position in class is the best class Audi. That Ferrari, though, is getting away, and getting away well. 1:30.723 is another fastest lap of the race. Its second consecutive fastest lap of the race, 2.2 seconds now for good. Of the 964 Lamborghini of Rolf Icon, Robert Lukacs hanging on to the back of the Lamborghini. Robert Renault back up to fourth, ahead of Jordan Grosjean now. And part of the reason why the Ferrari is getting away is because the Lamborghini is being monstered by that fourth racing powered by Ole Porsche behind. Don't get me wrong, Matteo Manicelli is a phenomenally quick Italian, and he is concentrating on the road in front rather than the battling behind. And there's been a change for second position with the fourth racing Porsche having got by Rolf Icon. That must have happened in the braking area for Rima's corner, so just out of our sight, and therefore down into the braking area of the Rauch. We have a new second place runner. Now, can the Porsche start to live with the pace of the Ferrari? And was the Lamborghini slowing up this black Dayglow yellow Porsche 911? Jordan Grosjean is still holding his own. Has to be said with that FGT3, the Renault RS01. Robert Renault trying as hard as he can to get by, but the opening not coming at the moment. And Renault, as he reacts to the lines of the Renault, also has to be aware of the movements of Christian Frankenhout behind him. Jordan Grosjean is moving his own laps here. I think that maybe his second was similar to 132, 131.974 for Jordan Grosjean last time around. Another movement, significant movement in class is the 991 class. Charles Espinal takes second place in the 991 class in the 85 Porsche from the 81 Ford 82 car of Nico Velico. The other thing we should point out is that the SPS automotive car broke the delta time in qualifying, so that car automatically has been moved to the A6 Pro division. So car 24, although originally entered as an A6 AM machine, is now in Pro and is being driven pretty swiftly by David Hiraj Alexander. That's not the case for the Renault. A6 AM is the class it stays in, and as you say, it's going below the 132s with regularity at the moment. So Jordan Grosjean will have to do that, because this is where the race quite exactly won and lost, but the position in 3.5 hours time might be judged on how you do in this portion of the race. So he's maybe just pushing on, burn 4 or 5 jokers and leave some in hand for later on. But remember, it is 10 through the 12 hours, it's not 10 today. Yep, and up to 4th position, taking the position from the Renault is the 911. We've got Herbert Porsche. The Robert Renault medal car goes ahead of the 27. RS27 Renault, which is now fending off the very close attention of the second place in A6 AM. The Hoofer racing car, this now the battle for 5th position overall. SBS Automotive, battling away, stuck in there to traffic, already passing the A3 Seat, the leading group. But at the front of this race, another fastest lap, 1:30.376, that after a 1:30.5 last time around. The gap now up to 4.7 seconds. And for me, it looks like Manny Jelly is looking to take what scalps he can here, and to see whether or not we can start to relegate people from that lead lap.
Well, it's a great thing to do. He's only got 3.5 hours to do it, and of course it won't be just him in the car, because there is a 2-hour drive limit for each pilot, so you're as close as you can to the 120 minutes, but we will have to switch driver Joseph Prague or Yuki Sari for the end of this 3.5 hours. Also bear in mind that those brakes on the Ferrari will be getting very warm indeed. It's not only the 3 stops at turns 1, 3 and 4, but it's also the very small amount of time they have to recover between each of those stops, so very little cooling on those brakes, and I think some teams might be in a position of having to change brakes on 2 separate occasions. Remember, the cars are locked into park firming at the end of the 3.5 hours today, so they wouldn't change brakes overnight. That has to be done during the race. The 24 SPS Automotive Performance Mercedes, the car that's been moved from A6 AM to A6 Pro, having broken that Delta type. Oh, big wiggle from David Alexander as well, desperately trying to get the car turned in at the corner, down into the bottom of the bowl effect of turn 10, and then powering his way out onto the main straight, which starts to climb into turn number 1, and that incline continues pretty much all the way to just after turn 3 at Remus. Now you'll get an indication of the kinks in the length of asphalt between turns 1 and 2. This kink to the left-hander is just to be turn 2 effectively, so this is 3 at Remus, turning right and continuing to climb up over the top, still very much in the foothills of the mountains though, and then down the other side the track drops away into Rauch corner with the grandstand that faces you, clipping the curb. David Alexander again. Away in the distance is the number 1 car of Christian Frankenhout, so this car is 7th. Paul Lafargue not very far away though in the EDEX Sport Mercedes AMG. Jimmy Ericsson's not had a great start for HTP Motorsport, but he has recovered 1 spot. Starting 5th, dropped to 10th, back up to 9th. Tony Fournay for Car Collection is therefore 10th, ahead of Milos Pavlovich, Reinhard Koffler and Christopher Zirkling that leads the 991 class. MSG Motorsport, car number 92, out front of the 991 division.
5th consecutive fastest lap of the race goes to the race leader at 1:30.135 now. The best mark from the number 11 Ferrari pulls out a 5.8 second gap. Behind though, now challenging hard for 3rd position as they passed us this time, the number 11 Porsche right on the rear end of the 964 Lamborghini. Robert Renella looking for a way through. The yellow flag out at turn 9. We'll keep an eye on what that is all about.
Ciao Nano, comment tu vas?
So whatever's happened out there has been cleared up. 2 further choke laps earned, 1 for the 27, 1 for the number 1, both with just a 10th in one case, and just hundredths in the other. They're burning these choker laps, Johnny, very cheaply indeed.
At Right Turn Lover asking on Twitter to both at DSC Editor and at Purple Johnny, I've seen white and green position numbers on the cars. Do they have a meaning, or is it just
that's when they make a positional change for the good.
Okay.
So if they are up 1,
yes,
or 2 or 3 on that lap, it will show green on the side of the car.
but it will still say the number that they moved to.
Correct.
And white if it's lost a place.
White is the same.
Ah, okay. Thank you for that. And the red number 1 illuminated on the side of the red Ferrari, already dealing with traffic, and there off track is the Audi RS3, the little TCR car. The Ferrari having to duck and weave between the number 70 Kreuzer Racing Lotus Evora as well. I'm not entirely sure why that TCR car was off track. Went a bit too deep into turn 10, which is an easy mistake to make. But thankfully, the leader got through. And this is how quickly, Graham, the race leader is encountering traffic. We've had 8 laps.
Absolutely right. That position change for third place has happened. Robert Renaud through on Rolf and Icon. So it's Maliucelli from Lukáš, Renaud and in Icon now the top 4. Those 4 separated by 8.8 seconds. The lead gap goes up again, this time to 5.4 seconds. And that time around was the first we've seen for a while. It will be because of that minor incident at the final turn. Just took a little out off the lap time for the leading Ferrari.
Well dealt with, though, by Matteo Maliucelli. He'll be used to dealing with not only the traffic, but also sometimes wayward cars. And that was a mistake by the Speed Factory Racing pilot, the Audi RS3, car 109.
We've got an incident involving cars 58 and car 65 under investigation. That is the Smart Racing Focus, isn't it? 58. The 65 is one of the Lorient Porsches. Pascal Gibon is at the wheel of that car at the moment, so there's clearly been some shenanigans out there out of our sight.
Yeah, between Raphael van der Straten and the 65 car, which is Pascal Gibon at the wheel of the Porsche Lorient Racing.
And indeed, here
comes Raphael then, down the pit lane with the Panini and Smurfs backing. And I'm sure that Damon isn't very far away. In fact, he appears at our feet. It's also right below our commentary box, Nick.
Hello there. Yeah, it's a cautionary look at the front left. It's had a bit scrape. You can see he's scuffed his alloys. That's 35 quid, you know, the alloy refinishes. He's taken off the Hancock logo very efficiently in that front left. Seb has moved around the other side. Is that where the real damage is? Well, they're also having a good old look in there on the disc. There's the disc inside the wheel, and then we've back on this. It looks like it's a kind of a, I plunked it, no doubt with car 65, and now I'm going to have a look at it. Where's it gone? They try and turn it, it's not top. Yeah, so they're looking at the wheel, it's not on somewhere, not seating properly on that front right. Well, now it's on again, you can spin, so it's a pretty good observation. The real one, that's also on. So off we go. So this is, I turn it, I'm going again, and off go the Spurs, still searching that lost village.
Thank you, Nick. So, VDS Racing Adventures back on the move with their Mark Focus V8. Josh Barrett just letting me know that there were yellow flags earlier for the number 17 Mercedes, which has lost a number of places. You may want to mention that, Graham.
An open exporter in Aberdeen, well spotted Josh.
Paul Lafargue at the wheel, dropped to 14 now.
The one to watch at the moment is Robert Renaud. He is gradually catching the number 29 Porsche. Takes some more time out, in fact half a second that time, out of the advantage of Robert Lukáš. 130.3 for the 911, 130.8 from Lukáš. And it's also taken more than half a second out of the lead, so 7.3 seconds back to third, 6 seconds back to second. Those gaps beginning to start to look a little more filled than they were.
Ça commence à être GG, moi je dis.
So what to watch is certainly the 17 Mercedes. That is the not quite the lowest placed A6 Pro car, because we have the recovering Vortex, which is up to 19th position now with Cyril Calmont at the wheel. So good driving there from the Frenchman, 2.04. And the next car for it to try and get by then is Paul Lafargue, who has tumbled down the order.
Remember, the number 17 in export car, second overall in Mugello. Great run from the export team. The purple sector, the fastest first sector of the race so far, goes to the third place number 911 Porsche. And continues to take time out of the cars ahead of him in the next sector, albeit in reduced amounts. So, so remember the gap last time around when we crossed the line, it was 6 seconds back first to second, then a further 1.3 seconds back to third. Through goes the Ferrari. That's a 1:31.4 this time. Here comes charging Robert Lukáš in traffic. He's slightly quicker, much quicker. Is Robert Renaud. That's now get the gap now down under 7 seconds, and just over a single second to the number 29 car. So the Porsches together and in traffic Well, you can be forgiven for thinking this is a Porsche Super Cup race on the opening lap, but this is a great example of what a Cup car, how a Cup car compares visually to a GT3 car. The wider wheel arches, the massive rear wing on the back of the 29 and the 911, compared to, for example, an SP2 car run by Speed Lover. That was the car that spun earlier on. Rafael Landstraten is back on the track now for Martin DDS Racing Adventures, the red car sensibly staying out of the way of the MSG Motorsport machine, which is well placed in the 991 class. Christopher Zirkling leading the way. We caught a glimpse a little while ago of Michel Nijas for B2S Competition, their Porsche out front in SP2, 20th overall, and leading Fred Ansel and Ferdinand Stuck for the SP2 honours. So 35, 64, 46, the early top three in SP2. Meanwhile, the number 65 Lorient car trying to get by Rafael Van der Straten. Can he do it heading towards first Aldina on that lap? Looks like not. There is the 963 Lamborghini. Was it 964? 964, which is Ralph Van still at the wheel. Has been as high as second, dropping to fourth, and has behind him, by not a huge margin, Jordan Droger.
Also got a brief look by
Et voilà.
Through GT4, those three cars separated by just about 2.5 seconds. It's still the KTM, sorry, it's the Audi has taken the lead from the KTM as they cross the line with the Optimum Ginetta quite close in behind. So the top three in SP3 GT4 in 26th through 28th positions overall, very close together indeed on the road. The battle though for second position has got Robert Renard and Robert Lukash in clear air now, just a second apart, and 8.2 seconds back from the leader, which took time after the pair of them last summer round. So 11 from 29 and 911, those three beginning really to drive away a little from the Lamborghini, which is in sort of no man's land, about 4 seconds down on the battle for second position, but 6 seconds up on Jordan Grosjean, who's the first of the A6 AM cars, and of course is hampered by the fact that he's got to stay within that 132 bracket time.
Dirk Parhofer is piloting a 33 car collection motorsport Audi R8, 18th position. It's heading back up the hill then, out of OMV corner at this, the 12 hours of the Red Bull ring underneath the Remus Bridge, approaching Remus corner proper, and that's what the car collection Audi looks like from the outside. White, green, orange livery, striking it is, and I love the fact that car collection come here with very different looking cars, helpful for us commentators, but also means that there's plenty of sponsor backing, and it just makes it more interesting for spectators, I think, as well. As the often car collection turn up with quite a collection of machines. They have, I think, a total of 4, maybe 5 at Mugello, with at least one TCR to add to their 3 A6 machines. They're all in A6 AM this weekend. Cars 32, 33 and 34. The best placed of those cars is Tony Forno.
The GT4 runners, by the way, now nose to tail. It is under a second between the top three, the 233 Audi with the KTM tucked in underneath the rear wing, the 221 car, and then Tom Hibbert has closed right in on that pair. So those three very close together in this battle. We've got cars on the video stream now, and it looks to me as if the KTM is looking for a way by the Audi. Tom Hibbert taking the opportunity of that battle to close back up with them. Meantime, at the front of the race, we've got Robert Lukash under real pressure now from Robert Renard. The gap was around 7/10 of a second last time through, and Renard still taking, nibbling away 10th by 10th at that advantage. And they are holding the gap to the leader now at around 8 seconds. So great battles both in A6 Pro and in SP3 GT4 and in A6 AM, where Jordan Grosjean still fending off Christian Fagenhut in the number 1 Hover Racing team. That's a battle for 5th position overall. The two leading Porsches, second and third rather, Porsches, in trouble for this acre.
Yeah, this is on the run up the hill, out of turn 1 towards 2, the King and Remus at the top of the hill, and the car has pulled off to driver's right to park them on the grass, covered by yellow flags at the moment, but I'm sensing something slightly more severe in terms of the caution procedure. Car showing no signs of life at this stage, but the clerk of the course historically has given the driver plenty of time to try and get the car back up and running. That plenty of time has run out though, because we're now under under code 60, the first of the race, so note that one down if you tally these sort of things in a little book. We're 3 hours and 7 minutes away from the end of the first part of the race, 2:37.5 minutes local time. Do the relevant calculation for wherever you are in the world, and we're now, I reckon, Graham, going to see a steady stream of cars working their way down pit road, whilst the preventing crew and the marshals, some of them very local to the Red Bull Ring, start to think about how to recover that Seiko.
Indeed, the first two to dive for the pits is the number 34 car collection Audi, the Kirchhoff sponsored car, and followed down by two Porsches and a second Audi. And it's going to be the American crew car, the speed lover car. Yes, 85.
Vraiment Guigui, comment ça va?
Start to think about how to recover that Seiko.
Indeed, the first two to dive for the pits is the number 34 car collection Audi, the Kirchhoff sponsored car, and followed down by two Porsches and a second Audi, and it's going to be the American crew car, the speed lover car. Yes, 85.
Ça va bien Toto, merci, comment vas-tu? Bah ça va nickel, merci beaucoup Guillaume. Un petit peu fatigué, mais sinon ça va.
overtaken crew. HTM Racing can set up on it, and Nick Damon is very close as well. But I should just say, we are now back to green flag running after our first code 60.
And it's not leaking anything.
Good, that's a great start.
So almost certainly it's just had a drive line problem or electric, but it's the lights are on. It's not totally electrical failure. Nothing's falling out the back of them at that point. So it's a little thing. Obviously the car that's cheap. This is the discount version of the Guggenhaus member as we found out on the grid.
Ouais, de fou Guillaume, merci à toi en tout cas de m'avoir dit, j'avais complètement zappé, je suis aware on va dire aujourd'hui, je suis complètement à l'ouest.
Hopefully it's nothing as significant as that, but next as it might be gearbox, we'll keep you up to speed with the Seika and its recovery.
We said that the lead car had lost ground behind the undercode 60, crossed the line less than a tenth of a second.
Exactement, là le live de Red Bull il avait un petit peu bug, ils viennent de rétablir, et ouais, je suis en train de le regarder en même temps, c'est ce qui en fond. Ok, même.
So we'll see where we are with the two lead cars. And I think Robert Lukash may be through for the lead.
Jimmy, as he is. Jimmy Eriksson has come back in, and you're right, we have a change of lead. So the Dayglow yellow and black Forch Racing Porsche out front now, ahead of Matteo Magliucelli, the first lead change. And you have to say that's come about because of a bizarre situation in the code 60. The Ferrari couldn't reach the maximum 60 k's because the car in front was only doing about 50. And therefore, Robert Lukash's Porsche was able to catch up a load of ground under the caution, didn't overtake. And there is the new race leader, the Forch Racing, powered by Olim, Porsche 991 GT3R, driven by Robert Lukash. And let's see now, in this phase of the race, how that Porsche is on its slightly oldish Hankook tyre.
Ah mais non.
Ferrari and also brakes.
Putain, je viens d'enlever tout un truc qui servait à rien, fallait que je passe par dessus. Oh le seum.
35 seconds down on the leader for 15% of fuel, so that car will effectively be full of fuel. We've got trouble off one of the AMGs at the exit of turn 10, and it looks to me like that car is smoking.
Quand on se concentre pas les poteaux, on fait des erreurs. Non, c'est sur l'autre map. Et normalement, si j'y retourne, c'est que mercredi. Et c'est pas sûr, non, j'ai pas. Encore faudrait que je regarde la vidéo et que je regarde. Et c'est sur l'autre map, c'est pas sur celle-là. Là, sur celle-là, je suis full diam, je suis full or, je suis. Dans celle-là, là, j'ai le Nether, j'ai le portail qui est devant le Ikea.
The smoke though is not tyre smoke for me, that is wheel rubbing on suspension parts where it shouldn't be. There'll be a lot of heat generated in that, and bear in mind, Paul Lafargue now has to do about 2.6 miles. Sensibly, he's going to take the shortcut here, so the lap he's just started will not count to his tally of laps, but that short cut through has remained open all weekend. Makes the lap an awful lot shorter, and the tyre's entirely gone now, wheels still attached. The blinking indicator showing everybody that he's trying to keep to the right hand side, so we definitely have no wheel, sorry, definitely have no tyre, the wheel is still there, but I think the problem issues is that the front splitter on one of these Mercedes GT3 cars is bouncing around on the tarmac now, so that's rocking the car quite a bit too. Porpoising as it works its way through first Alpine corner and over the rise. Now this is going to be tricky. I hope all the team managers are on the radio to their drivers saying, watch yourself as you head towards first Alpine, because over the rise there it is blind into Orange corner. Sensibly pull the fog, staying well off to the right hand side. Meanwhile, the 964 car crests that rise. Well, you're absolutely fine as you approach the incline, but dropping down the other side, I really hope there's nobody else thinking about a pit stop at this time, because this car is very slow indeed.
I think that may just be puncture.
I hope so, because in that case it's easily fixed. And the good thing is the tyre hasn't started to flail around, eat away at the bodywork. It's either clearly come off, or it's hugging the inside of the wheel.
You can see it wheel room. If you look inside, we've almost got the shot there. And if we look inside there, the whole of the carcass is to the inside of the tyre.
Right, so that's what's making it bounce around.
And it's also causing the smoke. There you go, you can see the part, at least part of the carcass on the inner ring of the wheel. Let's hope that's not doing further damage. We've done a good job of bringing that car home. Meantime, Matteo Malicelli has dropped 2.2 seconds back from Robert Lukash with a bit of traffic, but is going very quickly indeed. Biggest middle sector of the race. Lukash crosses the line now. Malicelli has closed back in. 2.2 seconds becomes 1.3 seconds. Further back for third position, we've now got an almost nil. In fact, we have got a nose-to-tail battle for third place. Jordan Grokor, the lead A6 car, fending off David Iraj.
Oh, what the fuck, y'en a
for SPS car. That's an A6 Pro car with Robert Renauer a little way further back. There wasn't anybody ahead of him, with the exception last time around of Malicelli. And here comes the EDEX Sport car now down the pit road towards the Damon.
Renauer goes through now, and he is 32 seconds behind the race leader, Robert Lukash. Matthew Malicelli in second, third position Jordan Groger in the Renault, and fourth place for David Iraj Alexander. To Nick Damon, who is with the 17 Mercedes.
Well, it takes a long time. He's just about to arrive. The thing's limping down in a drunken waddle. So much so he's blocked his way. The front left is completely off the tyre. But he's done like you've seen, but everything else is relatively intact. He's done a pretty new rear tyre. And now the reason why the problem is they've already got all the other things. It's had a go at the brakes. We know how poor that is here. Carcass rolled on the inside. That's the soft ducting take the brakes, but that's all. The rest of the damage is dirt. You see it. There's no return by Paul there. So you can go to that. He doesn't lap in a long time. And away he goes. The problem for the HCP Motorsport 25 is its selection, and having eliminated the steering wheel and probably now scrapping around the back of the car, has a rear transaxle gearbox, the AMG, and the safety problem was, as you expected, we had the aqua end of the carbon gearbox. I also had the 69 Porsche Loyans, Porsche, the one that was involved in that coming together with Spurs machine. But that is not the accident damage there, having a good old scare at the back. They didn't think this car was not, they found the third belt. It was last year, wasn't it, Barcelona during the hot weather, and also in Renault, that the Porsche started throwing belts. Well, this one's throwing another belt, obviously the rear, the general belt for the alternator and the fan, and I'm sure Seth will be able to show you the new belt, which is lying down there. Like the new belt, you see, and they are doing that as quick as well. So, first 45 minutes, all sorts of problems.
So that's the 65 Porsche Lorient, isn't it? The Porsche Lorient going here with two cars, 64 and 65, but the red door mirrored 65 is the one receiving attention, and it's very close again, Graham, for the race lead.
And for third place, so for the race lead, about half a second as they came by us. It's closer still as they come around now, almost nose to tail between the black and yellow Porsche and Matteo Malicelli, with 6.35 becomes 0.486. And the battle for third position between Jordan Grokor and David Iraj Alexander was closer still last time around. That was 0.306, and I think it's going to be about the same. Behind them, though, and closing, Robert Renauer, 14 seconds back, as the Renault still stays ahead of the Mercedes for third. But Robert Renauer putting in the fastest first sector of the race. He's pulling back a little time, but not a lot, against the race leaders. 35 seconds became 33 last time through. This time through, it's still 33 seconds. He's gone through in a 1:31. He's catching the battle for third position, but not now the battle for the lead.
A great spread of both A6 AM and Pro cars in the top 9. We have 4 AM cars represented. Bear in mind that 24 has switched classes between qualifying and the race because it broke the delta time during its best lap in qualifying 1 today. So David Alexander's SPS Automotive Performance car switched to A6 Pro, and that puts it 3rd in the Pro class, 4th overall, behind Jordan Grover's hard-charging GP Extreme Renault from the United Arab Emirates. It's fair to say Jordan Grover just about the fastest driver in that combination. He's ably supported by Bassam Cockcroftly from Canada. And Frenchman Frederic Fatian, although driving on the Ivorian licence, and the Renault then up to 3rd in these very early stages. We're not far off the 40-minute mark of a 3 hours and 30-minute first portion of the 12 hours. So 29 leads 11, very close indeed, 3/10 of a second between Robert Lukash and the Ferrari of Manucelli. Equally as close between Jordan Grover and David Alexander, who crossed the line as one, and up towards turn 1, Renault versus Mercedes, very much alive.
But remember, the Renault is hampered by its bracket time. The Mercedes-Benz isn't. He cannot run away by. And Alexander is beginning to get a bit irritated by that, I'm afraid. Robert Renault takes a little bit of time out of those two again, in fact quite a chunk of time out of those two again, and now holds the gap to the lead pair. I think Matteo Manucelli is now close enough to have a bit of a pop here for the lead, and would not be surprised at all to see him closer still this time around. So 29 from 11, then the 27 and 24 battle, then the 911 Porsche, closing on the battle for 3rd ahead of him. And of course, the 911 is the first of the cars that has stopped. Also a stopper under that code 60 was the 964 Lamborghini. That sits 6th and is about 17 seconds back from the 911 Porsche. That's your top 6.
Interesting that Jordan Grover's, he stayed just above the 132s on that lap. He has done a 131.6. That's the car's best lap of the race. Remember, you can reach the delta time on 10 occasions, but no more. And Jordan Grover may find this tricky because he's racing.
I think he's done it at least 3 times, and I think it may have been as many as 4.
See, I'm watching whether, because Tarek is just through the way there in the press room. I'm going to make a dash for him or something and ask him the question whether the car has switched classes. It's labelled as an A6 AM car on our screen. There is a dice for that 2nd position now. The SPS car is through, but the Renault was looking like it was going to dodge back up the inside again, frustratingly out of our sight. But David Alexander looks like he's got the place now into 3rd.
Salut le Guy, comment ça va poto?
That was certainly the order as they crossed the line. And yes, up the hill, the blue Mercedes is ahead. Now they've got the Kirchhoff car collection Audi walking the Mercedes a little bit, trying to stay off the racing line. David Alexander needing to tighten his exit out of Remus corner. That might compromise him as they go across the top here and get to the top speed. Heading into Rauch corner, there's the Mercedes to the left. So past the Kirchhoff Audi it goes. And the 34 car has to turn in at some point, so this is going to compromise Jordan Grover now. And Grover still hasn't got by, should be able to do it into the next corner. Left-hander upcoming, and yes, through goes the Renault. But as you say, the 132 marker has been breached a number of times now.
Tranquille poto, merci beaucoup.
It's actually a 132.3 last time through for Jordan Grover, so around the kind of pace he really needs to be maintaining. And that early race battle will cost them in terms of the number of jokers they burned. Jordan, it has to be said, is the driver most likely to be burning them in the lineup this weekend.
Yeah.
But meantime, the gap at the lead of the race, as the Mercedes-Benz in 3rd position does indeed start to pull away pretty rapidly. That, by the way, has allowed the chasing 911 car to close further. It takes a couple of seconds out of the Renault, and is now, 7 seconds back from 4th position. But the 24 car gets in its fastest lap of the race that time round with the the map and saw it by, and I'm guessing that car is now going to pull away reasonably easily, unhindered by having to keep to a bracket time, of course. So 1, 2, 3 now the lead. A6 Pros, 29 from 11 from 24. Then it's the A6 Am leading Renault, and then Robert Bernauer.
Salut, comment tu vas?
A6 Pro, both having pitted, making ground.
Celui de ceux que je ne sais, j'espère que vous allez bien les potos.
Fourth place 27 car.
A shout for Cyril Calmont, who's driving the Vortex brilliantly well. He's got into 14th position now from the back of the grid, remember. So that is 20 places and then some found. He's ahead of all the SP2 cars now. Has 2 A6 Ams ahead of him. And about 8 seconds ahead of him is Johannes Dr. Kirchhoff. We caught a quick glimpse of the 34 Audi. So that's the next car to pass, and then the other car collection Audi, and then you started to look at 991 cars. You really are in the mix.
Alors c'est une nouvelle parce que celle-là je l'ai vu courir moi au Mans et c'était pas le même moteur. Alors maintenant si c'est ce moteur là, GG. Avec poteau MDR non. Je savais pas dit, t'as vu j'y ai pensé. Quand je t'ai vu je dis salut ça.
Is the next car to cross the line, and that is the class leader in SP2, so well positioned for the other Porsche Lorient racing machine. It's a cup car, but it's entered in SP2. Ferdinand Stuck is 6 seconds adrift of Ansel, and the True Racing KTM therefore trying to apply a bit of pressure to that Porsche up ahead. The Stuck car's just done its best lap of the race, in fact, courtesy of 2 personal best times in sets 1 and 2.
So GP4 battle, by the way, still well engaged. Those top 3 cars still in the same position. KTM from Audi.
Je sais pas, je pense. Je sais pas, je pensais que tu savais, j'ai entendu cette rumeur. Ah bah alors non, si c'est une rumeur que t'as entendu, non. C'est pas le même moteur. C'est des petits moteurs qu'il y a dans les Renault. C'est des moteurs... Ouais, enfin quand je dis des petits moteurs, c'est je m'entends des petits moteurs, c'est déjà des bons moteurs. Mais à côté d'une Nissan GTR, non. Ouais, celle-là je l'ai vu courir moi la Renault. Franchement elle est pas mal hein. Moi qui aime pas trop Renault, franchement elle est pas mal hein. Franchement GG à eux. Vous jouez à Minecraft sur quoi? PS4? PS4 je joue à Minecraft.
For the 109 pilot a little while ago, started at Speed Factory by the Estonian, the 109 car, Mirko van Oostrum.
I think the reason we saw that slight off-track moment for the Peugeot, I think he knew the leaders were coming. I think he was being told they're coming.
Ouais, t'as vu, la nuit est tombée, hop, on a dormi. Au KLM, y'a plus rien.
That's the 308 car. So that's the other machine from the one I think we saw just battering the curves on the exit of turn 1. Guillaume Romain, though, leading the way in TCR, but it looks like he's been in the wars at times. It was very pretty, 308.
Tombé derrière, exactement.
Looking slightly second hand now, certainly on that rear left corner. There's a bit of a barrier, I think, somewhere. Or maybe no, perhaps not.
Vous allez faire quoi? Moi perso, là c'est ma map, je suis tout seul. Hein. Je fais une ville, je construis une ville, donc là je terraforme, je remets tout de niveau et tu vois j'ai déjà commencé en face tout ce qu'il y a là, c'est moi qui l'ai construit, c'est tout moi entièrement qui l'ai construit.
Propel out of turn 1 into the kink of 2 and then into the braking area at 3 at Remus, and that 92 car managed to stick with them at the time being.
Was lucky for a by at one point. I'll tell you something, that Ferrari is a rocket ship out the final turn. It really gets a run every time through there, and whether or not that's the line or the way the traction goes down, Manuchelli's got that thing nailed, and is looking for a way by. They've been passed us side to side on the last 2 laps, Johnny, and this is great stuff from the 2 leading cars, but what is that doing to their pace? It's bringing it down a little. Fastest of the top 5 at the moment by a distance is the 5th place 911 car, and has closed the gap. Remember, it was 35 seconds when we went back to green. It's closed the gap to the leaders to 29 seconds now, and it's less than 3 seconds back from Jürgen Grogart in the battle for 4th.
shouldn't be surprised at the pace of the MSG Motorsport Porsche, driven by Christopher Zirkling. It's in 10th overall, although has just been lapped by the race leaders. But the local team, MSG, based at Karlsdorf, very close to Graz, just down the road. And that car has just been lapped by the two leaders that are still jostling for position. This time the Ferrari's not going to be quite as close as it was a lap ago. And hearing from
C'est toi qui as fait GG, mais en créatif ou survie, t'as fait tout ça. En survie, j'ai tout fait en survie. Tout ça là-bas, c'est fait en survie. Je peux aller te faire voir après si tu veux. Quand je m'achèterai l'abonnement studio encore, je pourrais t'aider. Bah ouais, il y a carrément une map abo qui a été créée, donc moi quand il y a du monde, si les gens me demandent, on va sur la map abo, puis voilà quoi. J'ai fait une map abo exprès parce que c'est là en fait j'ai envie de me la faire totalement tout seul en fait. Vous comprenez, poto?
So at the moment, this is looking pretty good for the Motorsport team. Remember, a DNF last time out after that win in Dubai. So they need the points for the championship. They made the tactical call to come in for fuel. None of the cars ahead of them at the moment, the 29, the 11, the 24 or the 27 made the same call.
Really good lap by David Alexander, by the way, for SPS, 131.042.
Merci beaucoup, merci beaucoup. Je l'aurai bientôt. Bah y a pas de problème, hein, la map abo elle est toujours là, elle est toujours là. Beaucoup moins développée, certes, mais voilà. Après tu vas faire quoi de la map? Bah une vidéo dessus, puis voilà. Enfin après le jour, elle sera jamais finie quoi. Mais là après il faudra qu'un jour je me mette une petite vidéo dessus et tout quoi, un petit truc au KLM.
Fourth place battle goes by us now. That gap is under a second, 0.8 of a second now between Jordan Groko and 27 Renault. Robert Renault are dealing with traffic the latter part of that lap, so lost a little bit of ground, but it's right with Jordan Groko. That's a position that might well go on this lap. Groko, remember, with that rapid time for a 6am, no such constraints for Robert Renault.
I entirely understand your concerns from earlier on in the day.
Ouais, sur PS4.
Because it dumps a load of black smoke out of the.
Comment ça, un serveur abonné?
Accelerating out of turn 1 and out of turn 3. That's the car that has recently been fixed. That is.
Quel style pour la map? N'importe. C'est faites ce que vous voulez dessus. Juste pas voler. Voilà. Chacun fait sa maison, va chercher ce qu'il veut. Soit tu partages les ressources que tu as avec les personnes que tu veux. Donc en gros, si tu veux partager avec moi, tu partages avec moi. Si tu veux partager avec d'autres joueurs, tu partages avec d'autres joueurs. Il n'y a aucun problème. La seule condition, c'est d'être abonné à ma chaîne. Et vu que tu l'es, il n'y a aucun problème.
Starting the 29 car, once we get to that point, we'll have done half his stint as Matteo Manicelli, as fourth place changes over the line with the number 911 car going up the inside to Jordan Rogor. So,
non.
The race from the Ferrari, then the 24.
Non, ce sera ma map, puis voilà. Mais tu sais, elle sera jamais finie. Hein. C'est infinissable.
That position taken on the run down into turn 1, and Jordan Grogor in the GPX X-Trem 27 Renault RSO 1 drops back to 5th position, while Finn Eichen meanwhile further 20 seconds back from that little battle with the Hofer Racing Mercedes-Benz in 7th and running, that is second in A6am, isn't it, with the 3rd place car in A6am, the 963 GRT Lamborghini. A little further back, so both GRT cars in the top 8. Grog has settled his pace back now to be just over, just slower than the 132 bracket time, but only a smidge, 132.185.
So impressive times coming from the South African at the moment. We have Robert Renauer having just got by Jordan in 4th position, but Grover still easily.
Il n'y a pas de problème, tu feras la maison que tu veux sur la map à beau, poteau. C'est pas celle-là, tu verras, c'est une map, c'est une autre.
True Racing KTM number 56. That car is 9th. Christopher Circling leads the 991 class in 10th. The next best 991 car is Igo Vailiko in the 4th Racing Porsche number 81. And SP2 is still headed by Porsche Loriot Racing, the far better placed of the two.
Salut Glanny, comment tu vas?
Machine 65 has had issues, 64 going strongly in 15th overall and leading SP2 from the 46 car of Ferdinand.
Faut que j'amène la route par là, que je construise des trucs ici. Que là j'ai un espace, mon pote, qui sert à rien. Faut que je remplisse de terre ça là. Tac.
And again, it's just tenths between them, 4 tenths between them. Lap after lap now between them, after Robert Lukash took advantage. I'm sure it might be one of those ones where you have to hold the pause button for the interview with Nick Damon or Jim Bradley. When Malucelli gets out of that car, he will have been mightily frustrated by his inability to hold that gap under the slower KTM.
Ouais, pas de problème, je te fais visiter la map. Je fais vite fait ma ligne là, puis je te fais visiter la map. Il n'y a aucun problème. Pourquoi peut-être? Voilà, alors là l'Ikea avec tous les coffres. Voilà. Ma première maison, ma toute première maison, hein, qui est maintenant là, table de craft et les fours. Ah ouais, j'avais ça à l'intérieur. Ah ouais, bon on verra tout à l'heure. Salut ce cas, j'espère que vous avez bien les potos. Tu pourrais faire style moderne à l'extérieur et ancien à l'intérieur. Ouais, pas bête le geek. D'accord, Nénèse. Alors, on va devoir dormir après. Là la ferme, truc tout simple, rien à l'intérieur. Là le champ. Ah. Grand champ de blé, comme ça quand j'ai plus de viande, parce que j'ai abattu tous mes animaux, donc c'est les dernières ressources qui me restent de viande, de ceci, cela, et ce qui me reste dans les coffres, sinon rien. Alors là, on va dormir. Ah c'est con.
Inside corner, bear in mind at turn 6, and washing the car out a little bit.
Alors ça c'est ce qu'un poteau m'a fait pour enchantement et tout et tout. Voilà la l'enclume. Et ça c'est ma mairie. Bleu, blanc, rouge. Mairie française. Entrée piéton. Hop hop hop. On arrive. Hop. On va à l'accueil. Salle d'attente. Salle d'attente. Là, les trucs pour afficher les numéros. Tu as bureau 1, bureau 2. Toilette 1, toilette 2. C'est pareil. Là, tu as bureau 3, 4, c'est les plus grands bureaux, sont plus hauts en gamme. Hop, on ressort. Et à l'entrée, personnel, vestiaire, pour se changer et aller travailler. Et on a le deuxième étage de la mairie qui est consacré aux archives. Donc c'est des bibliothèques jusqu'au bout. Voilà, ça c'est ma mairie. MDR, et ouais, ça c'est sûr, Guillaume. MDR. Là en bas, derrière, pardon. Petit jardin de la mairie, ça fait le tour. Voilà, alors tu as mon champ. Il est là. Premier chalet. Ah, porte ouverte. GG. Ah, la cheminée. Tiens, que je vais changer le temps que j'y suis. Attendez. Non. Le fond, ça va cramer. Il faudra que je fasse une petite modification là de la cheminée. Que je l'avance d'un. Et que je fasse le feu qui monte. Je peux les poteaux. Je peux. Il faudra que je vous montre ça. Nénèse, non, là je suis sur ma map. Petit canapé, télé, cuisine, lit, là, on va dire l'armoire, là pour jouer, la toilette WC, là la douche, et là le balcon extérieur. Là, bureau.
So despite the fact that Alexander has upped his pace, he's still being caught by the Herpuff Motorsport car. The charging Robert Renauer, the gap by the way to the leaders. This is
le chalet qui m'a pris un petit peu plus de temps quand même, avec piscine. Alors chalet en une, mon pote. Salle à manger, cuisine, coin pour jouer, table de salon, grand canapé, grande télé. Ok, je vais avoir un petit défaut, c'est pas grave. Ah, la grande salle de bain avec 2 WC. Un ici. Le jacuzzi. Évier, douche, encore WC. Oups là. La chambre, une chambre avec un lit. Et la deuxième sortie. Et la piscine qui est profonde. Hein, c'est pas la petite piscine. Je suis en train de faire visiter la ville si tu veux. Reviens 5 minutes en arrière et comme ça tu pourras la voir en entière. Hop là, la petite impasse pour passer, pour aller aux 2 maisons qu'il y a là pour l'instant. Alors voilà la première, on rentre, dis donc. Voilà, alors là, c'est chambre suite parentale avec les toilettes et la douche dans la chambre. Bye bye. Tac. Le canapé, la salle à manger, ceci, cela. Et n'oublions pas le dehors. Pareil, 2-3 petites modifications à faire maintenant que j'ai découvert ce que je voulais, comment on faisait. Alors là, la table de son jardin, alors là, les chaises mal rangées, le barbecue, les roses à la madrée. Hop là, et là la maison qui est en face du voisin. Ok, sympa, c'est ouvert. Voilà, alors là vous arrivez sur le salon, salle à manger, cuisine, chambre 1, chambre 2, and salle de bain. Voilà, on va dehors. Petit grande zone de jardin pour les invités quand il y en a beaucoup. Petite pour la famille, les arbres qui poussent dans les jardins et les betteraves parce qu'il faut faire un petit jardin. Voilà, vous avez fait le tour de toute la map les potos. J'espère que ça vous a plu, j'espère qu'elle vous plaît la map. C'est les potos.
Yes, it does. Sitting up to my motorsport car that took pole position courtesy of Tom Hewitt. It was Tom that started the car. Now ahead of the best
et voilà.
racing.
Et la route, bien sûr, ceci et ça.
Issues during time. Here's Nick again from the pits. Watching, I think, the pit stop for the best class racing Audi.
Yes, it was, just fuel only.
Ah, right,
Path,
very quick.
fuel only stop. So, yeah, it's interesting. We still are actually just over the first hour, and we had that at code 60, so there's quite a lot of cars that came in the fuel extending their first stints. Certainly that's what's been happening with the Renault and the 911, but we've all got a steady stream, I think, of cars coming in now. Some taking fuel, some taking fuel trials, and some doing the whole down approval and changing drivers as well.
Yeah, indeed so. There's a 2-hour drive limit, as usual, and as you say, we've just crept over the hour marker now. Matteo Manucelli leading the way by 4.8 seconds from Robert Lukash. Is there an issue with that car? Is it carrying some kind of correctly? It's slow puncture because you would expect more of a drop off.
I wonder if it's just as simple as pick up.
It's possible, and sometimes it's not able, you're not able to scrub all of that off, and you feel like it's an entirely different car for the second portion of your stint. But then at the same time, it's just not worth pitting, because the amount of time you stand to lose for a pit stop is not the same. It far exceeds the amount of time you might be losing out on track. So it's just one of those stints you've got to grit your teeth, push your way through. They're not in danger of slipping into third position at this stage, because David Alexander is at a safe enough distance, over 20 seconds further back. And it's fair to say that David Alexander has his own concerns with Robert Renault launching with intent in the Helmet Motorsport car in fourth.
Yeah, just half a second back. That battle, but 27 seconds clear.
Oui, j'aurais pas. Je n'aurais pas assez de terre. Là, il me reste quoi, 5 stacks?
Fastest lap of the race and the first lap under 130 goes to the leading car. Pulls out a gap of now 6 seconds, so getting back towards.
Sinon, sur la map des abos, c'est de la survie pure et dure. Survie pure et dure, comme moi ici. Juste la conservation, pardon, d'inventaire, sinon pure et dure.
Yeah.
Ouais, non, gars, parce que j'ai déjà perdu le mien et c'est... Ça, c'est gavant par contre. Comme ça, ceux qui veulent à l'aventure, ceux qui veulent aller dans des grottes, c'est ceux-là. Ils y vont. Moi, la dernière fois, j'en avais trouvé une. Je suis dégoûté. Il faut que je regarde ma vidéo, que je regarde le trajet que j'ai fait pour le reprendre le même, les potos. Ah, j'ai envie de me faire un putain de magasin là. Faut que je me fasse une route et tout, les potos. Et ouais. Boum. Tu as 1, 2. Là, les lampadaires. Là.
track, there's very little pickup. The cars aren't throwing out the level of marbles they were at Bonjour, which would also point to the fact it's likely the tyres are going to last longer.
Alors, 1, 2, 3, 4. MDR. Ah ouais, la nuit à ton poteau.
By bonnet, you mean the traditional place for a bonnet on a front engine luggage cover. Yes, indeed. To remove any element of doubt, I'd call it the rear panel, the engine cover, really. And I'd still call that a bonnet, even though it doesn't have an engine beneath it. You're quite right. One of the clips.
Voici, comment ça va?
Possibly complete failure, and it is flopping around in the breeze. They've spotted one of the evidentially trained was Joe Bradley from that one, so well done, Joe.
Donc là j'en ai 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, ici même.
Full service for the 81, that's the Porsche of Olympic Racing by Lucas. Deputy Neighbour out this time, or Walico, not quite sure.
C'est quoi ce que j'entends derrière? C'est une course, poteau, je suis en train de regarder le Red Bull Ring. En live sur YouTube, pareil. Je regarde la course en même temps que je joue à Minecraft et que je vous parle.
Part of the driver combination for the 29 machine format race leaders. Now down to second. Last time through, fastest lap of its race came from Lukash, the 29 Porsche, 1:30.561. But that wasn't.
Voici des petites anomalies qui ne devraient pas être. Parce que déjà, ça dégage. Je suis désolé pour tout péter, mais il faut.
I was entirely wrong, by the way, by putting Bonjour on the wheel of the 204 Vortex. It is Lionel Ambrosch. So he is now driving the 204 Vortex V8.
Alors attendez, bougez point les potos, ok.
And also looking for other drivers. Obviously no change.
Attendez, je me fais un petit truc. Voilà. Voilà, comment on fait une route les potos? Je croyais que c'était les infos aux États-Unis. Ah ouais, non, 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 j'aurais dû une course. Non. Alors les potos, excusez-moi, 30 secondes. Je fais ma petite truc, hop. Petit message.
So Matteo Manicelli, meanwhile, is just steaming away at the moment in the lead of this race. And it's been interesting to watch his progress because the initial phase of the race saw him do exactly that. And then during the caution of code 60, the gap between the Ferrari and the car that has now peeled off into the pit lane, which is car 29, Robert Lukash, fourth racing car by Lukash Motorsport, and straight to Nick Damer we go for the pit stop for number 29.
It's a very quick full service. We've already got two of the cars
Yo, nickel et toi, Mercube? Parfait si tu vas bien, poteau. Ça fait zizir. En fait, on construit ce qu'on veut sur la map des abonnés, comme des maisons, des magasins, des trucs dans le genre. Exactement. T'as envie de te faire un projet de ouf, faire un tour Eiffel, faire... Tu fais ce que tu veux sur cette map-là, poteau. C'est la map à beau express, c'est qu'en fait, il y a beaucoup de monde qui venait sur cette map-là. Mais moi, je veux pas qu'on construise sur cette map-là parce que c'est la mienne. Donc, je me suis dit, mais attends, tous les abos qui veulent construire, je vais leur donner l'opportunité de construire et je vais leur faire une map abo où ils vont faire ce qu'ils veulent, ils vont entre guillemets se démerder pour les ressources parce que là, venir sur ma map et construire c'est facile, il y a toutes les ressources qu'il faut. Donc là-bas, moi, tout le monde se débrouille. Moi, j'ai fait ma petite maison. Je suis en train de faire mon petit champ derrière pour manger. Chacun se démerde, j'ai envie de vous dire. Ceux qui partagent, s'ils veulent bien, ils veulent bien. Ceux qui veulent pas, qui font les radins, ils gardent pour eux, il n'y a pas de problème. Juste pas de vol, parce que ça, c'est chiant.
Wait for an hour to come through. It will be a little while yet. Here he comes. So the 911 car comes through, takes second position overall. The gap is 32.3 seconds.
Et voilà. Par contre, je vais utiliser parce que je vais faire mon serveur Minecraft PS4. Il n'y a pas de problème, Mercure, il n'y a pas de problème. Merci à toi d'être passé, mon poteau. C'est déjà très gentil de ta part. MDR, oh, ça va, là, c'est français, moi, que je fais. C'est-à-dire des pranks. Ouais, je vois ça. Elle mène bien, hein. Elle mène bien, la cochonne.
When he finally got you, was that because you were tripped up by traffic?
Yeah, the Ferrari anyway was a little bit faster from beginning. Yeah, then he little bit slipped on the code 60. We catched him and yeah, I tried some
Non, 1, 2, 3, 4.
And then he catched me and he was quite faster.
Well, thank you very much. And we've just turned here, we can see that the car is coming in and that is
1, 2, 3, 4. Ouais, elle gère bien pour l'instant. GG elle, hein. Non, non, les trolls, non, c'est non, parce que y en a, ils vont mal le prendre, il y en a après, ils vont vouloir le faire, mais ils vont pas rendre, ou ils vont pas rendre comme il faut. Non, 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 sérieux sur mon serveur. Enfin, sur la map, pardon, pas sur mon serveur, sur la map. MDR. MDR si bas. Il y a plus tout à l'heure où mon pote là. Ok, c'était pour savoir. Ah, non, non. Ça serait moi, tu me trollerais moi si cela, il y aurait que moi, je dirais oui. Mais là, je vais pas savoir c'est qui, ceci et cela. C'est la merde. Wow, il y a eu un accident, les potos. Je sais pas si t'as vu, Guigui. L'autre il a pété sa direction à l'avant et l'autre il nique sa roue à l'arrière. Bah putain GG. J'essaie de rigoler même en ce genre d'événement. Mais pas marrant. Ouais, enfin c'est pas marrant, perso. Je vais pas pleurer.
Involved in the Ginetta incident, tyre second and latest number 70 should be able to make its way back to the pits under its own steam. Now that heavy duty flatbed is already on the scene. It knows this Ginetta pretty well after the G55's adventures during Quali 2 earlier on today.
Ouais, exactement.
Crane will very quickly go a straight left on that Ginetta G55. Meanwhile, we're going to have a busy time in the pit lane. The 911 Porsche for Pico Herbert deciding to pit, and we have news from Nick Damon.
And we have the man, Joe, so you bought the car in the league by a few seconds, but you lost a much bigger lead during the first Code 60. What happened?
Ouais, moi aussi, parfait, il faut aussi bas.
Not doing 60, but was doing 55, and I couldn't overtake him, so just wait. And when the race restarted, I took the position because I need maybe 2 laps to warm the tires, and the Porsche is better in warming the tires. So, but
Bon,
it was a good fight.
ça se remplit, c'est GG. On va manger un coup.
Well, that part of Code 60, it seemed like you really enjoyed it. You're putting in fastest laps, then you're going to fight with another car.
Yeah, the car is working well. We have a small noise from the gearbox. I hope will be nothing serious, but for the moment.
Je dois partir, salut, d'accord le geek. Bah salut à toi, merci poto d'être venu. Ça fait plaisir, tu reviens quand tu veux poto, à plus.
Very end of it.
Was really difficult because here it's really difficult to overtake the Porsche because it's
On va aller ranger tout ça.
traction car, a good power car. I was a bit faster on the mixed sector, but not there is not the space to overtake. And again with the double, with overtaking the slow cars, I was able to overtake him.
Thank you, Matteo. Thank you very much. And it is very, very busy here. I see the Coroy's machine has made its way back in. We have had it stopped in the 911 Porsche, and that was a driver change as well.
Oh what the fuck, pourquoi j'ai un mur? Là j'ai cassé un mur où il fallait pas ça.
Lamborghinis, we have the basically everyone's in the pits at the moment. And so
Non, non, ok, c'est bon.
I'll go and try and talk to someone else.
Je sais.
From the background noise from your radio mic, Nick, that you're surrounded by machinery. It must be a fabulous place to be
Tac,
right now. And
tac.
they're all going Code 60, of course, on the main track, what is left of them. But the pit lane is somewhere to try and stay safe for Nick Damon. So Robert Renaud has done the stop. I think that might have just been a trip all the way through to the
C'est quoi qui me reste?
Absolutely, I think that's exactly right. Taking his 50% of fuel and trying to retain as much
De la diorite.
under the last Code 60 as he possibly can.
Jordan Grover's Renault is also in the fueling area, as is Rolf Eiken's 964 A6 Pro car. Grover's back out again, so they haven't done a driver change there. That would suggest that's fuel only as well with the GP Extreme A6 and Lien.
Voilà.
It was trouble for the 109 Audi RS3 LNS, the by-speed factory car.
On va prendre de... 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. On va prendre...
It's had a big impact on the front left. It's crushed the initial part of the bodywork. What they're worried about, obviously, is not so much the fact they're going to lose a bit of aero efficiency, more that it's rubbing on the tyres. They have already had to even have a rub it, remove it. That's been torn off, and they're now just trying to clear and make sure that all the areas on the inside of the arch are not actually having any problem. What they're also doing, interestingly, they're taking off
Un peu pilote de...
rear steering rod is actually being removed.
MDR, tu m'étonnes. MDR, Guigui. Ouais, c'est parti, poteau. C'est parti pour la route qui part là-bas.
Incident somewhere out on track with the 231. That's incident under investigation by race control right now. That is the Optimum Motorsport Ginetta that caused an effect there. Maybe there's front, when you say front left, damage to the Audi, rear right damage to the Ginetta. So is that side-to-side contact, do we think?
I mean, it looked more significant damage than you would pick up from just smacking curbs, to be honest. And
Attendez.
if the car has turned in to the right-hander at Remus and then been smacked in the side, yeah, I'm afraid maybe the result.
Ah, l'Audia repart.
Wheels perhaps
GG. La vie, j'ai envie de m'acheter un jeu. C'est ouf. Je vous jure, j'ai envie de m'acheter un jeu, mais c'est ouf, c'est ouf, c'est ouf, c'est ouf, c'est ouf. Ça me manque de trop en ce moment.
And in a few moments' time, once this all winds through, we'll be able to tell you exactly where these cars all lie. We've still got the 964 Lamborghini. It just shows us
Non, va te faire.
From third position, having taken fuel. And, well, of the leading pack, the car that is actually stretched
Ok.
again is that upgraded number 56 True Racing KTM. 430 brake horsepower from its 2-litre Audi Turbo 4. It is up to 6th position overall, having not yet pitted. So great fuel economy, and leading the race is the Renault.
Yeah, exactly right. Jordan Groger, although he's having to stick to his delta times, has found his way to the top of the pile. Currently working lap 50. And this is, I reckon, an outlap, because the last time around he did a 4:03, so that will have been a regular lap time plus a pit stop, which was fuel only. And now the car is back out and in the lead. Christian Frankenhouse, another A6 car, is in second position. And Daniel Alleman at the wheel of the 911 Herbert Motorsport Porsche. So they
Moi aussi j'ai mis de la thune de côté. Bah il faut, mais là j'ai envie de m'acheter un jeu. Ah, je vous jure, j'ai envie de le prendre là, j'ai envie presque d'y jouer là, mais je sais que sinon, si je le prends, faut que j'arrête le live et que je télécharge. Ça après, ça serait pas très grave, mais putain.
Slight damage it has on the fender, the rear fender on that right hand side. So obviously a failure has taken out a bit of bodywork. Whether it was a failure caused by clunk or by mechanical, who knows? But they're now replacing the steering rack. We don't like to see cars in mechanical or in accident woes, but I do like to see
Parfaitement parfait.
Wonderful stuff to see with Coroza. Core, I have to tell you, won the first ever race I wrote about, British GT, back at the start of this century, and it's great to see him still out there.
I was about to say in about 1958.
Thank you very much. It was, I think, 2000, he was in his mighty Marcos with Callum Lockie at Silverstone. Wonderful stuff.
Nick Damon's got a comment to make.
Quel jeu tu as acheté, Toto? Non, j'ai envie d'en acheter un, mon Guigui. J'ai envie de m'en acheter un, en fait, c'est Projet Car. Voilà, j'ai envie de m'acheter Projet Car. J'ai envie de faire un jeu de voiture, ça me manque. Gran Turismo, on sait pas quand il sort. Ils annoncent rien du tout. Au final, je sais même pas si je vais l'acheter dès sa sortie parce que franchement, ça commence à faire long l'attente. Franchement, ça commence à faire très long et ça commence à être un petit peu gâchant.
Over the last half an hour or so, plenty to report on, and of course 2 Code 60s, the second of which much busier than the early one, because that was a bit too early in the race for cars wanting to refuel.
Bah si je le prends aujourd'hui, oui, je l'ai pas acheté, hein. C'est une envie que j'ai, mais en plus là je crois qu'il est en promo, donc ça serait GG pour moi quoi. Toto, tu parles de Projet Car 2, exactement mon Guigui. Enfin oui, Projet Car 2, oui, bien sûr. Exactly. Bah GG.
The Lotus Evora and car 150, the Seat Leon Super Copa. So that likely is the cause and effect of the travails that Coroza et al. Have actually found themselves in. Probably a moment really with the pit stops done and back to green flag racing just to run through what is a very different looking leading order now. Jordan Grogard does indeed lead the race in the number 27 GP Extreme Renault. He's now some 19.8 seconds ahead of the Hofer Racing number 1 Mercedes with Christian Frankenhut at the wheel of that car, with the lap times from the two of them very similar indeed. Then comes Daniel Alleman up to third position, having made that second stop for another 50% of fuel. He's 20 seconds back from Frankenhut and 40 seconds back from the lead, but he is 26 seconds ahead of.
On dit que Projet Quart d'heure est un grand concurrent. Ah, j'étais fort. Ah bon, c'est vrai, Guigui? Ah, pas mal. Non, franchement, j'ai envie, ouais, parce que on va dire que j'ai envie d'un jeu de voiture. Et GT, il arrive pas tout de suite. On sait pas encore, on aurait une date. Je saurais que c'est dans 2 mois, dans 3 mois. Mais non, on sait pas. Ça trouve, dans une semaine, ils vont te dire bon, bah, dans 2 semaines, le jeu il sort. Enfin, je veux dire, ça me saoule un peu d'attendre. Ça me saoule. J'ai envie de jouer à un jeu de voiture, ça me manque. Un jeu de voiture sur circuit, hein, je parle bien. Pas du Need for Speed, c'est ça, je parle. Merde. Je parle bien d'un jeu de course circuit et photo. Attendez, poteau, parce que ça met de plomb. Salut Noxina, comment ça va, poteau? Apparemment, les. Plein de points par rapport au. Ah ouais, mais c'est pour ça, là, je suis en train de, en même temps de regarder si je peux pas le voir, là, mais si, c'est bon, ok. Normalement, si je ne m'abuse, les poteaux.
To a little bit of a microclimate, you could say. So Remus corner, yes, being confirmed to us that at turn 3.
Attends, on va faire quelque chose de plus rapide.
There is a little bit of rain.
And it is indeed a right turn up at Remus, so right turn over in the
Where
right
is
place.
McBain?
Loves his right turns.
Those left turns don't do anything for him.
Exactly right. SPS automotive performance. Mercedes struggling to get the car stopped now. Is that because of a lack of traction, and also because of that Lamborghini Huracan snapping in its heels? I wonder. 964 driven by Christian Engelhardt, and the 24 car not on the same lap as the Lambo. So David Alexander.
Bah ouais, c'est pour ça. Dégage. Ça, je trouve que ça fait long. Je trouve qu'ils l'ont reculé, mais beaucoup trop. Je veux dire, je pense qu'ils perdent. Après, perso, hein, c'est moi, mais je pense qu'ils perdent des ventes. Parce que les jeux vont se retourner vers. Tu dégages sur d'autres. Ouais, sur d'autres. Merde. Brrr, sur d'autres jeux. Excusez-moi, je suis en train. Oh là là, je suis à l'ouest, ça m'énerve. Là, les poteaux. La route est faite. Tac. Tac tac, on va passer à ça. Je vais essayer de faire un live PES dans 30 minutes environ. D'accord, s'y va, parfait. Ok, bah, alors, les autres projets car, je marque projet car, ils connaissent pas. Allez, vas-y, va te faire. Par où je pense, par qui je pense. It's gonna be contact, it's gonna be contact. Alors là, déjà, projet car 1, il est à 15 boules. 15 boules. Ah, ça vaut vraiment le coup, attendez. Attendez les pets, parce que 15 €, je trouve, ça fait vraiment pas cher. Ah, nique ta race, toi, le film. Excusez-moi.
Is only 3 seconds further down the road, so Christian Engelhardt hasn't got an awful lot of time to waste there. The HTP Mercedes is back out on track, and that is a bit of front right bodywork that's been replaced to that car, I would say. Thanks to Josh Barrett, who says the 25 car was in the pits for 30 minutes.
J'ai pas compris si j'irai voir sur ma PS3 si Polyphony continue d'ajouter des éléments similaires sur GTC. Merci beaucoup Guillaume.
What the
fuck, je comprends rien. Projet Car 2 il est sorti ou pas? Non.
And this
Il...
is the
Ah, il est sorti ou quoi?
Extreme Renault RSO 1. So
Je sais même pas, moi.
55 stroke 54. Here comes the Renault, pings the timing beam, actually way back. Oh no, it does now. So this is the end of lap 55. Jordan Groger making a stop then. And this will mean that Christian Frankenhout takes the lead of the race for the first time. There's been a change in the pit lane because Joe Bradley is there and can tell us what the Renault is up to.
Non, Projet Car 2 apparemment n'est pas encore sorti à ce que je vois. Ah, je sais. Il a combien le Projet Car? Il a 15 € là, en promo.
Already Jordan Kruger out of the car, and already the Renault RSO already on its way to the fueling stop.
So, very tidy turnaround there for the GP Extreme. Let's have a look back at an incident, yes, between the Mercedes and the Lamborghini Huracan, and this is the late manoeuvre. Let's see how close these cars came to contact.
Not close.
There was no contact, but it was phenomenally close. It looked like the Lamborghini was going to slam in the back of it.
The 24 clattered the curb on the inside, though. That was a very tight manoeuvre indeed. So a little bit of cause and effect on both sides there.
But there is some foreshortening from our camera position at turn 1 there, which just looked
Ah, c'est que je mets Projet Car, mon pote il trouve un. Ouais, ils sont
the back of that Mercedes. In the end, it just tucked up alongside it. But David Iraj-Alexander was not happy with that from Christian Engelhardt, because the in-camera view from the gesticulation just suggested what?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 64 car.
908 Team Ultron Peugeot, Stefan Ventiar at the wheel of the 908 car, and we're going to get another chance to see this overtake. Here we go. Yeah, that's just after the two cars started to overlap, but there was very little real estate between the front left corner of that Lamborghini and the rear right, the Mercedes. They're heading up the hill. This was moments ago. Oh, the Seika. Now, there is always smoke out of the back of the Seika, but it is slow. And I dare to say, this might be another drive shaft issue or gearbox related. It looks like it's drive. And we know, because that car is so powerful through its rear wheels, the other components are susceptible to breakages and failures. So, Seika's going to tour its way around the rest of this lap. More rain. We're hearing it Rindt corner. So, Jochen Rindt corner being turn 9. So, the rain has quickly moved from Remus at one corner of the Red Bull Ring to the other. And that is particularly a corner you want.
Ça me donne envie de le prendre, pote.
Downhill, you're using plenty of curb. I would think that many of these drivers will be using a little less of that right-hand curbing as you near the end of the lap. 3 Porsches and a Mercedes sweeping across the line. One of them is the 65 Porsche Lorient machine, and 85 looking to overtake that. The 85. No, the 78 is the speed of the car, isn't it? The 85 is the Pro Sport.
I apologise.
That's Joe Foster, second in the 991 class, so that wasn't a battle for position. I just wanted to make sure that was straight in my mind before we go down to Joe Bradley again.
Jordan Groger has just brought that beautiful looking Renault RSO 1 in for its first pit stop. Now, Jordan, you were able to stretch that first stint to 2 hours. Will we see another 2-hour stint from that car?
We'll see how it plays into our hands with regards to code 60 and fuel consumption. We were able to do a lot of lift and codes, save some fuel, try and eke it out as much as possible. As much as you want to run with the pro times, you have to back it off. But let's see, a long way to go, and speak to you in what, another 10 hours?
Yeah, I know. That's a euro in the jar for saying it's a long way to go. You're the first one to say that. It's a great thing to see an A6 AM car leading the race. In fact, we have 2. The Hofer Mercedes is behind you. Do you think we'll see that towards the end of this race? As you say, 10 hours to go.
Yeah, I mean, if the weather plays into our hands and we're not capped by the minimum lap time, maybe we can give it a go. So let's see.
And we were just talking there before we came on air about splashes of rain already being seen. You told me you saw a little bit on the windscreen.
Yeah, like I said, it always looks more than it really is. So you got a radio in and ask, is it really raining? But there's a lot of grip out there. The track's fantastic.
Thanks, Jordan. Thanks. Jordan Gruber there.
Yeah, always offers us a great insight into what it's like to actually be out there. Rain at Remus, rain at Rins, but it doesn't look like it's affecting the grip. But, another but into this sentence, the 27 car, is that starting to have a little bit of an issue?
We've got the 308 car. 308 car is slow on track.
Right.
From 5th position, by the way, the number 56 KTM after a great run, his first pit stop right now, the 56 in the hands of Reinhard Kofler, which is the upgraded A6M KTM. But so keeping an eye on the 27 car.
Putain, je vais pas en avoir assez, je vais devoir aller à la table de craft.
A great spot by the TV crew, cameraman out there, but there is steam or smoke coming from the rear engine cover on driver's left, and that is trouble for the number 27 car. And just as we came back to trouble 2 for the 308 car, which has stopped on track, and we've gone to code 60, number 3.
Yeah, well, that was inevitable because that's a dangerous position for the little Peugeot to be sitting. Oh, car collection Audi coming out of there and really not knowing the Peugeot was there. Hadn't seen the code 60 flags either. And I just was preempting a moment that we saw in Mugello a year ago where there was a slow Audi that got collected just before the final corner. Thankfully, that Audi saw the Peugeot, which sits stationary on the outside of Rauch corner.
I feel the driver of that Audi may be in trouble for that one. So, stationary on track, the 308, after running slowly. It's a brand new car for the Team Ultran team, trying to restart the car. Here comes the intervention Jeep. So back to pit lane.
Yeah, and disaster averted, thankfully. So,
well, we don't like to see cars stopped on track, do we? We'd like to see one of the reasons why.
well, yes, I mean, from memory, it wasn't a car entirely stopped like the Peugeot was, but in Mugello 2016, for a car that was doing brilliantly well at the time, the Audi R8.
Bon, je finis la course les potos et on va faire un truc.
Was crawling into the final corner at Mugello. This wasn't earlier this year, this was in 16, and as a result, it was stopped, I beg your pardon, funny how the trips, and yellow flags were being waved at the time. Porsche
Le crash qu'il y a eu mon pote.
really have time to react, and the loose wheel got collected by a set as well. That was a horrible incident. Thankfully everybody was okay, but we had a lot of beaten up race cars, and just for a second I thought that car collection car was aimed right at the Peugeot. Some good reaction, and that is,
Je vais prendre projet car juste après les poteaux.
Code 60 in that instance was far quicker than it would have been had the car been off the track, but it is a really quick exit out of Rauch corner. You're not fully aware about what's right round the corner, and you just take to your natural racing line and are presented by a stopped car. A horrible moment, but awful disaster.
Bon voilà, cette partie de route là sera faite plus tard les potos. Je vais m'arrêter là pour ce live les potos, comme vous l'avez compris. Je vais acheter un jeu. Je vais acheter Projet Car les potos. Je reviens ce soir si je peux avec, ou sinon ça sera dès le prochain. Parce que ce soir, dans le live Minecraft avec GTA Abruti, on va voir ce qu'on fait les potos, si on fait du Minecraft, si on fait du Projet Car, on verra les potos. Je range juste tout ça vite fait. Je reprends tac tac.
Now to Joe Bradley in the pit lane, who has with him Christopher Zirkling, fresh from the MSG Motorsport Porsche. These are local guys.
Je remercie tous ceux qui ont été là sur ce live les potos.
Has recently been leading the 991 class. Over to
Je vous dis à la prochaine sur un prochain live. Merci à tous d'avoir interagi avec moi. Merci à tous pour les pouces bleus. Je vous dis à la prochaine sur un prochain live les potos. Portez-vous bien et allez. Salut tout le monde.
Tire wear being as ever crucial.
Yeah, tire wear is